There is a version of you that the world has not yet met, not because he does not exist, but because you have not yet been willing to build him in silence. Most men wait for a sign, a speech, a sudden wave of motivation that will carry them into greatness. But the man who becomes unrecognizable does not wait. He studies when the room is quiet and no one is watching. He trains when his body argues and his mind negotiates. He shuts up when everything inside him wants to explain, defend, and justify. Study, train, be silent. These are not three activities. They are three forms of war against the man you used to be. The transformation you are searching for does not announce itself. It does not arrive with applause. It arrives at 4 in the morning, in the dark, when you choose discipline over comfort one more time. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire and still reminded himself each morning that the obstacle in the path becomes the path itself. He did not write those words for his citizens. He wrote them for himself, alone, in private, because he understood that the battle for character is always an internal one. He knew that the mind, left undisciplined, becomes a tyrant. Trained, it becomes a throne. Seneca warned that we suffer more in imagination than in reality, that the mind untrained does not protect you. It tortures you with futures that never arrive and regrets that serve no purpose. He spent his life arguing that time is the only true currency a man possesses, and that most men spend it carelessly as though they have an endless supply. Epictetus, who was once owned by another man, became the freest philosopher in recorded history, not because his circumstances changed, but because his inner architecture did. He separated what is in his control from what is not, and he lived inside that boundary with ferocious discipline. That distinction alone, practiced daily, rewires the way a man moves through difficulty. Ryan Holiday built an entire modern philosophy around turning resistance into resource. James Clear reduced identity transformation to its most honest form. You are simply the collection of what you repeatedly do, not what you occasionally feel. Robin Sharma spent decades teaching that mastery is not found in grand gestures, but in the quiet rituals no one sees. Mark Manson, beneath all the provocation, argued that what you are willing to suffer for defines you more clearly than what you desire. These men, separated by centuries and continents, arrived at the same conclusion. Transformation is not an event. It is a practice. It is invisible before it is undeniable. Study is not what you did in a classroom. Study is what happens when you sit alone with a book, an idea, a problem, and you refuse to leave until you understand it more deeply than you did before. Study is the daily act of feeding your mind something harder than entertainment. It is choosing philosophy over distraction, choosing difficulty over ease, choosing the slow accumulation of understanding over the fast consumption of noise. The man who studies builds a mind that can hold complexity without panic. He builds a mind that is not rattled by chaos because he has spent hours inside difficult ideas and emerged from them intact. Every page he reads in silence is a brick. Every concept he wrestles with and finally understands is a wall. He is building something inside himself that no external circumstance can reach. Study is the mastery of mind, and the mind is where every battle begins before it ever appears in the world. Training is where philosophy meets flesh. It is the place where your values stop being ideas and start being real. When you walk into a gym or onto a track or drop to the floor at 6 in the morning and your body says stop and your mind hears it and chooses to continue, that is not fitness. That is character being forged in real time. The internal battle during training is identical to the internal battle during every hard moment life will hand you. You learn to sit inside discomfort. You learn that the voice telling you to quit is not the truth. It is just a voice. You learn that suffering chosen voluntarily makes involuntary suffering manageable. Training teaches you something that no lecture ever could, which is that you are capable of more than you currently believe, and that the gap between where you are And where you want to be close is only through repetition, not revelation. Train the body, and you are not simply building muscle. You are building evidence. Evidence that you can do hard things. Evidence that you show up even when nothing feels good. That evidence accumulates and becomes identity. Silence is the pillar most men abandon first because the ego cannot survive in silence. The ego needs to perform, explain, defend, and be seen. Silence starves the ego. And when the ego is starved long enough, what remains is something far more powerful: clarity. The man who speaks less observes more. He hears what others miss. He understands patterns in rooms, in conversations, in his own reactions, because he has not spent all his energy filling space with words. Silence is where you process. It is where the studying and the training integrate into something coherent. It is where you hear the version of yourself that knows exactly what to do, but is usually drowned out by noise. Silence is not the absence of thought. It is the presence of controlled thought. It is mastery of the ego, and the ego, once mastered, stops running your life and starts serving it. The morning is where identity is chosen or surrendered. Before the world makes its demands, before the phone fills with other people's urgency, before the noise of the day arrives, there is a window. It is small. It is quiet. And what you do inside it determines who you are becoming. The man committed to this path uses that window without negotiation. He studies something. He moves his body. He sits in silence long enough to hear himself think. He does not do this because he feels motivated. He does it because he has decided who he is, and this is what that man does. Motivation is weather. Identity is architecture. Weather changes daily. Architecture holds. Reaction control is the next application. The Stoics were obsessed with the gap between stimulus and response because they understood that your entire character lives in that gap. When something goes wrong, and it will, the undisciplined man reacts from emotion. The man who has studied, trained, and practiced silence responds from principle. He has rehearsed this in philosophy. He has rehearsed this in physical training. Now he applies it in real life. That response is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength. Consistency is not a strategy. It is an identity statement. Every day you return to the work, you are telling yourself a story about who you are. You are not doing this for the result you can see. You are doing this for the man you are becoming in the process. The results are a byproduct. The identity is the goal. And one morning, weeks or months from now, you will look in the mirror and not fully recognize the man looking back. That is not a dramatic moment. It arrives quietly, because real transformation always does. You came here for something. Perhaps you could not name it exactly, but it was there. A pull toward a version of yourself that does not yet exist in full form. That version is not built by watching. He is built by returning. Returning to study when it is inconvenient. Returning to training when you are tired. Returning to silence when the world is loud and your ego is screaming to be heard. This is the path that has no finish line and no crowd. It is the path walked alone, in the dark, with nothing but discipline and the quiet certainty that the work is worth it. The world will not see your transformation as it happens. People around you will notice something shifting before they can name what it is. You will carry yourself differently. You will speak less and mean more. You will stop seeking validation because you have become your own evidence. That is the true meaning of becoming unrecognizable. It is not about aesthetics. It is not about status. It is about arriving at a version of yourself that the undisciplined version could not have imagined surviving, let alone embodying. If this philosophy lives in you, then stay. Not because this channel needs your subscription, but because you need your own commitment witnessed and reinforced. A river does not become powerful in one rainfall. It becomes powerful through sustained, quiet, relentless movement in one direction. Be the river. Begin again tomorrow. Say nothing. Show everything.